homies and homiettes, if that's even a thing. We got Radium and Serenity and Apollo and Catalyst and Impulsion and Radium again. This is going to be a set of games between Shopkeeper Dogs, Terran, and Steven's Protoss. Let's see how he fares in a matchup that's a little bit different because Steven has been gaming. He has been doing that kind of gaming. And he is over here. He is the homie. He is the man himself. And I believe he is... This looks like Deep Periwinkle, but it was just regular Periwinkle. I should have waited for a chat message to come up, but it doesn't seem like any is. That's the trick, because Periwinkle is the same as the regular text color. Anyway, it's going to be his Protoss against Shopkeeper Dog's Terran, and Shopkeeper Dog is a equally mystifying color. This could be a few of them. It could be Cosmic Cobalt. It could be Dark Sapphire. It could be Zafir. No, not Zafir. Zafir is closer to Ultramarine, and then it could be Delft Blue. But Delft Blue is a bit darker. Dark Sapphire is a little bit different. So I guess I'll say Cosmic... I kind of want to say Dark Sapphire right now because of the text on the top. I'll stop hemming and hawing, and I'll say Dark Sapphire. Whew. Okay, I got one, boys. I got one. 50% is 100%. We got Gateway on the way for Steven, and we've got Fulcrum on the way for Dog. So Shop is definitely a guy who's been... He's been around the block, you know? He's been playing for a good while. He managed to make it in through the upper bracket of Gauntlet Stage B for Acropolis 2. Unfortunately, after defeating... Hey, he beat the champion of the tournament in his opening match on... What map was it? Muspelheim. So, you know, I got to give him some props. I got to say shout out Dog. And he's definitely got some tricks in him. But he was eliminated in the Battlement stage. He had that dub. And he let us keep the money. His prize winnings were reinvested back into the project. So hey, shout out Dog for that. Steven, on the other hand, he's a little bit too new for any significant, you know, development, any tournament play. He came in after Acropolis 2. He's getting his pylon heckled, and the Mason does a little bit of a strange lap around that second gateway and then falls away. The Scribe has been pocketed off to the side. It will probably end up sweeping some of these mines, which is pretty tricksy by Steven. It's a good tactic to use. The first racket is nearly complete as the Mason falls away, and there you go. You know, he's going to sacrifice the Scribe. He doesn't end up getting much more than that, just the single mine. And there's a presence, a familiar presence. It's the one Folk Ministry. Well, he's adding a stockade behind it. Yes, okay, Dog is going for a very greedy build, and Steven seems like he wants to throw down with him. He's going to take his Nexus. He's got pretty good saturation in his main base. Hasn't really been harvesting too much Vespene. He's actually... Okay, he's got 2 on the Geyser now. Maybe that was always the case and I just missed it. But still good mineral income for our Protoss player. Dog is... Well, he's dogging. I mean, he'd probably feel a little bit safer if that Scribe hadn't swept the mine. And it doesn't seem to me like Steven wants to chance the opportunity here. This is Radium, a map by BiddyB. It is cross-spawn. I mean, you only get cross-spawn. It's a 2-spawn map, so... Still, he might feel like, oh, this is a big ask to move through the middle of the map and try to posture against my enemy. So he's going to go ahead and let him do his thing. Dog is going to go ahead and rest on his laurels, getting the Blackjack. Second Fulcrum halfway complete. Ministry is done. Each one of these little diamonds has to have another Dracodon. That seems to be Steven's MO. He needs one more. Yeah, there you go. Okay, he's going to have enough. Embassy on the way, so he's going to get the Witness out to sweep the mines. One thing that you can do if you're struggling versus vulture mines, I find, is you can bring a worker in dire circumstances, or you can quickly invest into a Legionnaire or something. Just sending in some kind of scrap unit that you don't need in the fight just to clear the mines can be very, very beneficial if you don't want to wait for the embassy. That being said, the second scrapyard on the way. Dog seems to be playing old school. He's doing Acropolis 2 patch strat right now, where he's going for the Blackjacks and the Shaman, I assume, is going to come out of that Vestry-enhanced stockade. Hey, move them over. What do you... Ah, you're out of formation, dude. Disastrous. An Artisan is indeed on the way. I feel like Dog hasn't had the best of times doing work versus the Artisan. He is dropping a quarry. He is going to go for the Talos, so he might be able to get some good scouting intel and stuff. Dracodons are now moving across the map, so... Hey, it looks like this game we will see... I don't think he can break Dog, so I actually think his One Folk Ministry has worked out okay. A couple of Blackjacks are falling back. I wonder if he's worried about well, something else exactly, like maybe a drop or something like that. He's going to drop his anchor. That is a bit of a time crunch there for Steven if he wants to strike before the anchor finishes while the iron is hot, but instead his artisan will be moving to the 3 o'clock position. More striders are coming out. It looks like a third base will be taken behind everything as the witness gathers intel. Ugh. Okay, so the striders fall back. Might be a little bit puzzling for Dog. He's used to being pressured by Protoss players, but Steven is like, hey, I'll just take an expansion. What's the problem? Ardent Authority coming down on the natural there, so good reinforcement point. A couple of the artisans are hanging out, still waiting on that Nexus at the third base. I feel like it's been a little bit now. He's going to go ahead and drop it. Probably like 30 seconds later so, but... I mean, I think Dog and Steven are probably similar-ish in level. I don't know how well these games will illustrate that. Dog doesn't usually go super aggro. Although when he does, he does have some cheeses. He does have some cheeses. But for the most part, he plays like a very, I want to say, like optimized game. And those optimizations can come back to bite him in the rear end if he's playing a bit on the greedier side with regards to his build order. He's going to go for the one full low military expand strat. Yeah, that can punish you. You can get punished. Oh, Grand Library on the way for Steven as more stockades are being added. I guess this is going to be Covenant. Yeah, he's going to start filtering in some Eidolons, or maybe some Savants. Savants are pretty good too. Okay, Steven has seemingly learned from those errors versus Ramen that we saw in one of those games where he left his artisans to idle for quite a while. Grand Library next to the Ardent Authority making a Cantors. I've long thought that if you just go for big phalanx counts, you deal with the Cantors pretty nicely on tier 1, but that does require different add-on spreads than what Dog has. Ah, the cheek! I love the Watchdog being built by the Talos to deny mining. That also denies artisans moving out there, by the way, so a Strider is going to have to be dealing with that. This Witness has not been spotted. You can deploy the Shaman, and then you get detection, so it would be trivial to kill that, but Dog hasn't noticed it, right? He's not really watching his army in transit, per se. So there goes that Watchdog. Meanwhile, more artisans are likely to move down the rest of the map. Nexus is complete. Do we have a third base for Dog? No, this looks like a 2-base military push for him. His army is, like, deceptively durable, but it is contingent on him taking the fight in a certain way. We'll see if he ends up clearing the artisans there. It looks like he's just going to send them out to pasture for now. Second Ardent Authority coming out for Steven, so he's definitely going to be committing to this phalanx strategy. Let's see if Dog knows what to do better than Ramen did. Unfortunately for him, he's definitely going to be struggling versus those Acantor shells for now. I think that kind of cancels the plan for an attack. A Ministry on location, so Dog will not have the economy that Steven does, even setting aside the artisans that may or may not do things. Just looking at the worker count here, I would say that the fact that the third base is up and running here is a huge asset for Steven. Now, the Terran army can be more cost-efficient, but I still think that its linchpin is going to be the Phalanx, and we don't see any Palladium add-ons coming on at all. Phalanx, for those uninitiated, is the siege tank. You can imagine its utility versus these armies that are a bit, especially the Acantors. I mean, they do have a projectile now, so it's a little bit different, but this third base is pretty unprotected. The army is kind of jockeying back and forth, but it's being watched. You know, this is one of those things, right? The Witness has just been doing things. Oh, he's going to move over to this Ministry and see if he can saturate it. Not a bad shout. In the future, you'll be able to use your Taluses to build sieves on location to cap those ridges. And by the future, I mean right now. You can play with ridge caps right now if you want. They didn't exist during the time that this game was played. Thankfully for Dog, Steven actually pulled his punches on that attack long enough for the Ministry to finish. And so he could lift it off, get it out of harm's way. You know, he didn't have to worry about it being focused down or whatever. Ooh, 11 HP on that Goliath. Don't worry. He'll heal. Thankfully, the Witness was not in the neighborhood when the Shamans went down. So what do we have here? 12 o'clock coming. Steven's macro has been pretty good, I would say, all in all. He does have the advantage in base count. He has the advantage in mining. I'd say that these Taluses probably neutralize the advantage provided by the Artisans. Although, well, yeah, these guys are not mining. So that's a big whiff. These two are mining. These two are mining. This one is not. Okay, I guess that's not true. So even with the ones that aren't mining, it's not going to be quite enough to just be getting it from the ridge. So the gas advantage is definitely Stevens. And once this fourth base kicks in, look, he's even capping that with an aquifer. You know, he's got his gas caps coming. He's going to be loaded with money. This should be a Steven victory if Dog doesn't find some kind of timing to maybe cancel that 12 o'clock position. I don't know if he can really feel like he can move out is the problem. I mean, he's being watched on all sides. He has no mobile detection. Only now is he starting to work in the almighty phalanx. A couple of these units are going to get cleared out. Yeah, heal the... I love healing the mine. That's so funny to me. A couple of wardens being put down, but all they do is soak up some of the money. Wisely, he actually holds his fire on the cancellation of that other warden. It is going to go ahead and be killed fully. You don't get as much. You don't get all the money back when you cancel, but you get more than you get zero if it just dies. Now the Nexus is probably going to be falling here. It is soaking up a ton of damage as we speak, and the Acantors are just going to be ripping through the cleric stack. He is going to need to fall back for this fight. Remember, no splash damage, no artillery. He's trying to maybe rely on the Savants, but the Acantors will clean those up too. All he's really using the Striders for right now, Steven, is just using that so he can use the Acantors to great effect. And look at that. You can see how fast the tide turns. Only a couple of healing units left. The support units going to be supporting themselves on the way back. Now Kabbalists are going to strike. There's nothing in that anchor. What's he going to do with this? Oh, boy. It's exactly what every Terran fears. Deputy Dad is on the chase. He's going to be sirening his way in as these Kabbalists just start cleaning house. Look at the worker count start to fall. There's a couple in the main base as well. Yeah, so, you know, he did kill the 12 o'clock, right? But he hasn't been able to secure a fourth base of his own. The artisans are starting to mine a little bit more precipitously, I would hope. Okay, maybe not. They're still idle in the same spots. The Kabbalists have equalized the worker count and then some. I mean, Steven's up by 40 workers. And it's still going. He's still losing value over here. Another ministry on location. That could be, you know, delayed for the time being with a little bit of micro. Steven hasn't even really paid attention to these units. He's just like, yeah, whatever. Maybe they'll do something. And yeah, I'd say maybe they are. Oh my goodness. Devastation. Look at that. They escape. They are criminals. They are vagrants and vagabonds. Deputy Dad really wants to arrest them, but I gotta say, for Dog, I mean, this could be a gift for him if he ends up killing these Acantors, but he has no real heavy phalanx count to punish this slow migration of caterpillars. Well, there they go. By the way, the internal name for the Reaver in StarCraft 1 was Trilobite. I don't personally get the appearance myself, but, you know. All right, the Acantors are just going to continue shredding the bio. And, you know, they'll do the same to the Goliaths if given the opportunity, but at the very least, we are starting to see some retribution as the Acantors fall. But still, not all of them. And, I mean, the Kabbalists are back. The Kabbalists have cleaned... I mean, maybe this is the solution. Just make flying workers instead. Oh, my God. Yeah, I think if you're in Dog's shoes, you're starting... They're filling with blood, you know? Like, this is not looking too good. We got double Argosy coming for our Protoss player. By Crucibles, no less. This man is sitting pretty. So I'd say this is a kind of a clinic from Steven. I mean, he had the artisans. He could have definitely been using them more. You know, these ones are still not doing anything. But besides that, he's been able to regularly out-expand his opponent as far as tempo goes. The Kabbalists are something that Dog, it doesn't seem like anybody has done that to him before, so he is definitely struggling there. Is that a neutral reservoir? What? I am so confused. Why is there a neutral reservoir over here, but not down there on the other side? I feel that must be some deliberate asymmetry. Anyway, he's going to try to deploy over here. I don't hate this move. I just feel like right now there is a bit of a transition point where the Solarians are coming. So 12 o'clock does have to be abandoned. There was never any mining happening at the top left, so that base ends up not being revealed to Dog. And killing it would not be that much of an asset in his favor. Got the low ground base being taken over here in the meanwhile as a consolation. But when the Solarians start arriving, I don't know that the Goliaths and the Phalanxes can deal with what Steven has. I guess I will point out that the Phalanx count has climbed fast enough and precipitously enough that the Cantors won't be as much of an instant win. And mixing in Vagrants instead of melee units does potentially put some risk here on the army. But as the Goliaths start to drift back, I mean, the Solarians show themselves. You need to keep the Goliaths alive so you can actually deal with the Stewards, and that is not going to do it, I don't think. Yeah, all the anti-air is gone. Cantors and Vagrants doing their best. A tier 2 now on the way for Dog, but I feel like it's a little bit too late. And yeah, he's going to end up losing all of his Shamans. He has completely been routed here, and the Solarians do make all the difference, I think. Although I still feel like Steven would have won that anyway. I just wanted to point out that the lack of melee means that you have to deliberately move your Vagrants in on like close to the Phalanxes. If you do that, Vagrants can even be better than Zealots. It just requires some micro. And the reason why they can be better, in my opinion, is because they have the twice life thing, so they're going to soak up way more damage and thus spread the splash even more so. 9 o'clock going to be evacuated, but they go straight into the Lion's Maw here, and Steven has more than double the workers of his opponent, and when you get to that point, the Neblime Horizon, the hit-em-up horizon, whatever we should call that little... yeah, that's the Cabalists are back in town. Well, it's been an utter massacre, but I do think that the Phalanxes probably need to come out a bit sooner when you're going up against Massacantor. Nobody really plays Massacantor, so Steven is definitely benefiting from the fact that his style is very different. He's actually going to get a Kabbalist out there, which is pretty surprising. Cheeky Watchdog blocking another expansion. Finally, these Artisans are back. This one's still just hanging. Just chilling. Dallas is doing their thing. Is that... No, it has a reservoir and a ridge. I think it's a bug. I think it's supposed to be 2 ridges. Because we had this whole talk about how, like, neutral gas caps are really, really good. So, anyway, Dog is benefiting from that oversight by Biddy B. I think. Maybe it's not an oversight. Looks like a big worker transfer going to go down to the bottom right and establish a nexus there. In doing so, they might end up spotting the Taluses off to the side. Well, Dog is staying in the game. He's doing his best. He's going to try to see what he can do here, but I don't think he realizes how far behind he is. Oh, were they trying to get down there and he doesn't realize it's an island? That's also a possibility. No nexus needed. He's just going to... Steven's got a lot of money in the bank. This is a lot of cash to splash. His Solarians are going to come out and occupy the Madrigals. Hey, there's a lot of Madrigals there. They are going to wound the Stewards quite a bit. I feel like it's not quite enough. Some of them were all the way in the back here as well, not necessarily shooting at every Steward. The Cantor is continuing to run roughshod, and there's only the 1 Phalanx left over. I think this is over. GG is called by Shopkeeper Dog, and that's going to be a victory for our Protoss players. So, hey, hats off to Steven for being so convincing. I got to say that Dog obviously thought he had a chance. There might have technically been a point, like I think before the Solarians came out, he did the right move of killing the 4th base and resetting his opponent back down to 3. He didn't really police the Artisans, and they weren't used to their full power either. I feel like versus Protoss now, you probably need to fit in a star pad at some point. Or you can do the Talos Watchdog thing, but that needed to be a bit more common as well, like a little bit more used in that sense. That being said, I don't hate the Blackjack play into Eidolons and Savants if you're going up against Gateway Man. Cantors show you why you can't just rest on your laurels and open that. You need to scout what your opponent is doing, and when you see them go a Cantor, start filtering those Phalanxes, and I think those fights would have gone Dog's way a lot faster. Let's go into game number 2. We've got Shopkeeper Dog in the bottom left as... Is this Palatinate purple? Oh, it's Cordovan. I never would have guessed that color. I was thinking it was either that or Tyrian, and Tyrion's usually a bit brighter, a bit more vibrant. Steven is up here in the top right as, I'm going to say, which could be Maya Blue, Electric, or Glacial. I'm going to say Glacial. All right. What gave it away was the Scribe for me. The Nexus made me think it. The Scribe confirmed it. Yes, I know the game that well. Wink. I mean, obviously I don't. I got this color wrong. All right, so Dog is going to be hanging out here with his Fulcrum Opener, as per usual. And we've got a pylon up for Steven. He's going to go Gateway. My question is, do we see a response to the Acantors? Is Dog going to do something specific with that? Is he going to preempt that? Or is Steven even going to continue it? You know, like sometimes you want to change up your strat. I will say, as well as the Acantors were doing, I don't think that they won the game entirely. Like, Steven kind of leveraged 3 different tech points there. He went Ardent Authority for Mass Acantor to complement his Strider mass. And then he went Rogue Gallery to get the Kabbalists out. They did a crazy amount of damage, at which point Dog really only had one chance of claiming victory, and that was smashing the 4th base without losing his whole army. And he did smash the 4th base, but then he lost his whole army. And then I think when you factor in the Solarian switch, I don't even know if it was exactly necessary. It definitely made Dog pivot away from Mass Phalanx and into Madrigals so that he could defeat that. And then the Acantors cleaned up his ground army because he didn't have enough Phalanxes to hold them at bay. Among other things, he didn't have that much in the bank. You know, he just didn't have that much because his economy was in the doldrums after getting slapped by all those Kabbalists. So I like to point that out. Like, that was an interesting game, even though it looked like Steven was just ahead the whole time and he was going to win, you know, barring a certain, miracle or whatever. But indeed, that does seem to have worked. I believe, so Serenity, a map by BiddyB, is what we are on now. I believe this is a reimagination of Omnivore, which is a map that I made way back. That's what I recall him saying. And that's also the vibe I get with the main natural and the fact that there's like this island base off to the side and it's like on the same axis as your main base. And then you got this island base over here as well, which actually... The construction of it, even though it's completely different because it's an island, it reminds me of Terminus, which is an even more ancient map that I made. But yeah, anyway, I think that's what it is. I mean, that's what I remind. They are all Twilight maps, so it could just be that I'm reminding it that way, Cryptomnesia or whatever. But the Nexus is on the way for Steven, and the Ministry is on the way for Dog. Ministry is doing 1 Falk Ministry into triple Falk follow-up with a Scrapyard. Presumably the Stockade will have a Vestry. We'll see what he ends up getting up to with that. I want to see more Terran players attempt Bio versus Protoss. I do quite like Bio as the opener. My go-to opener as Terran versus Zerg is to go Stockade into Fulcrum, and then I just go like Maverick Goliath, and that tends to be the opener. I usually like add a third production structure, either a Fulcrum or a Stockade. After that, depending on what I'm going up against, if I scout Hydrith, then it's another Fulcrum. If I scout, anything else, it's usually Bio. And that does set me up. So I'm imagining the timings do exist. Man, that Mason is really having a tough time getting out of there. Oh, Blizzard. I do believe. Oh, he's doing it again. Get me out of this labyrinth. Now, I do think that with triple Scrapyard, this is going to be a much more committed approach. I would love to see some Matadors. I know that's a unit that doesn't get used too often, but I think Matadors are really, really good at surviving the Drakadin salvo, the opening salvo here. Vulture being shooed, as the Artisan did spot it on the way by, which means the Vulture also spotted the Artisan, but did Dog spot the Artisan? Did Dog spot the Vulture spotting the Artisan? C-spot run? It's going to be an Envoy follow-up, so Dog actually wants to avoid that, obviously, but Steven is thinking of a drop. We saw Dog pull his Blackjacks back at one point, excuse me, and I remember thinking, oh, he's thinking about a drop, and so that was in the last game. I don't know if we're going to see something similar this time around. It's going to be Shaman Blackjack all the way. Oh, man, if only he deployed it, he would have killed that Witness. I don't think Steven realizes that yet, because Dog actually hasn't done it. But I often do end up just, like, safety deploying my Shamans just because, like, hey, if they fly into me with their Witness, then that's on them. Oh. What? What's he doing with this? Is he going to establish... Maybe he's proxying. I don't know, man. I'm down to see what he does. The Blackjacks are going to move forward with the Shamans in tow. This can surprisingly deal a lot of damage, but I feel like the Drakadin count is too high. We're going to see... What? What the hell? I don't know if I ever would anticipate that. I mean, Dog does not look down. Dog does not look down. He's busy looking at his military force, so he has no idea. Dude, I couldn't tell you what Steven is planning. That's a very interesting move. Okay, the Drakadins are being taken advantage of right now, but it looks like they'll dive in onto the Shaman. There's a good snipe there. Only 5 Blackjacks here. They do deal a good amount of damage, you know, but not quite enough to break the mountain of Dracodons. Oh, that's some good bursts. But yeah, they just don't trade 1-for-1, right? That's like the main thing. You do need a preponderance of Dracodons there. What is he doing with this? I feel like it's a little bit too close for comfort. You know, I want to put that pylon down a little bit further back. He's got a lot of money in the bank. He's got his Ardent coming. He'll be able to hold this with the Striders, and he's going to try to make him pay for killing that Shaman dog. Not quite able to make it happen. The Witness on the side. Pylon is complete. Ah, 3 Artisans idle. That's better than 2 Artisans, I guess. More people just watching. First a Cantor on the way. What? I mean, Dog still hasn't noticed. Dog is not paying attention. He's still trying to do his best to micro a couple of Blackjacks versus the Drax. Now he's gonna see. Surely. I don't think this should be so lethal, but I mean, we'll see. He's still not doing anything about it. Dog! Dog! Hello? No, no, no. Ugh. I can't believe he's just letting these warp in his base. All right. You know what? Somebody wake me up from this fever dream.